Hello, everybody, and welcome back to that Milan podcast. Martino Puccio, Matt Santangelo alongside you guys. We appreciate all the support, so don't forget to subscribe, like, comment on the video, your thoughts on the past couple of matches and the preview against Inter in this episode. Obviously, this one is not going to be a fun one for a lot of us, so we'll just get into it. Matt, Roma eliminate Milan. I went live yesterday, so I kind of got my stuff out of the way. So we'll kind of let you talk more so on this side of things. You were a bit more optimistic heading into the second leg. You thought Milan were able to pull it off. I was far less optimistic. I thought at least a 1-1 draw. But this was really worse than that for so many different reasons. So we'll get into it. 2-0 down basically within the first 25, 30 minutes. They get a gift on the Celik red card. Just kind of set up your kind of thoughts through that entire time, because the marking on Mancini was terrible on a really great attempt by Pellegrini. And then Mancini finishes yet again. He's the main reason they advanced in this with his 2 goals. And then Dybala's finish was just fantastic by him. His technical ability and class is always going to last, regardless of his legs. So, Milan, again, just like first leg, lifeless.
Look, there was a lot of feelings and emotions towards these 2 legs, right? I think, the first match we were, going into that, we were pretty confident, right? For all the right reasons. We had every reason to feel good about our chances against Roma over 2 legs. We've dominated them in many previous encounters. We were, aside from the Sassuolo game, in pretty good form. I know Roma have been as well, and you have to respect that. But I think over 2 legs, I think Milan fans like their chances. This was a pretty solid draw for them, given the familiarity with Roma. So to see Milan come out with, 2 stinkers, call it like it is, at first at home, where, ideally, maybe you would have liked to play away to start, so you could come back home and then maybe it's a little bit more like, hey, we have to get up for this game because we're at home in front of our own fans. So traveling to Rome was always going to be difficult. But if just from the onset, Martino, the energy wasn't there. The desire to win wasn't there. And again, as I mentioned in our previous episode, there were more so with the details, right? I think, just the way that Roma were set up, the way they approached this game, the way De Rossi outcoached and outclassed Stefano Pioli over 2 legs, I think was pretty apparent. And, just some of the clips and videos I've been seeing go around and circulating in the aftermath of Milan's exit are pretty telling, right? Just the fact that, you have 11 v 10, Milan have the man advantage for 2/3 of this game, and you're seeing Stefan El-Shaarawy clear the ball and then run it down and beat our own players to the ball. There's something there, right? There's something to be said about how this Roma team goes out and absolutely fights for their coach. And in many ways, his way of playing as a footballer, Daniele De Rossi, has transmitted onto his guys. And you started to really see that over these 2 legs. So all credit to them. I think, what you, surmised on your post-match yesterday. I watched it before heading to sleep. And I agreed with everything. I think, there's 2 truths here. You can, criticize and lament all the issues and bad play from Milan's end and Stefano Pioli's coaching, while also giving praise and shedding that onto the Roma players who, over 180 minutes, were the better team and they're in fine form. And there's a reason why this team is so galvanized behind their coach. They truly believe that they are in the right direction. They have the right man leading them forward. De Rossi's going to get an extension if he hasn't already. I think that's in the works.
Before the game,
credit to them. Credit to them. They completely deserved it. Milan were outclassed, and it's disappointing that we didn't see much more on this stage, because I had 2-1 to Milan. I thought that we were going to come out, and I was like, surely we're not going to drop another dud performance, given that we were still, in the competition. We could still win a trophy here, especially looking at what Liverpool was doing against Atalanta. Let's talk about that, right? Like, you have to kind of look at everything and think, hey, Liverpool might bow out. Milan have a pretty decent path if they can manage this to a final. And at that point, in a one-off game, you never know. But just lifeless. I mean, some of the selections were horrible. Yunus Musa.
Yeah, which was going to be my next thing.
Yeah, it's
because like this for me, and I'll set this up so you could breathe for a second. But just, well, you barely can with allergies. But the lineup selection was just awful from the start. And we were kind of talking about it on the last podcast. I know Sempre Milan was discussing this
Yeah.
too, when I was cutting up their stuff for this preview. Like, just to not even consider rolling with what was clearly working against Sassuolo in other games and even in Lecce, where the experiment works, where Pioli is forced to do something, and this is
Yeah.
why he's going to lose his job. And this is, and I've said it for months, and I try and defend the guy, and I try and in certain instances where he does deserve it. This was indefensible. Everybody knows it. Almost all the accounts on Twitter, right? For example, that had been defending Pioli tooth and nail for the longest of times, and everybody except for like one guy in my replies thought this selection was horrible. You don't put in Reinders, who sat against Sassuolo. Turns out he wasn't even injured whatsoever, so there was really no excuse to not have him in here. You have Loftus-Cheek, who's been very inconsistent, and when he dominated Roma in the times that he played against them, he was out wide as a midfielder. Then the selection of Musa. To the extent I didn't really care that much, but in a double pivot, it didn't make
Yeah.
sense. And then where he was positionally on the field, he was fielded up top on the right. Why? This doesn't make any sense. For Calabria to be where? To be playing for what reason? Olivier Giroud, far too slow and not being involved in the build-up. Chris Smalling absolutely owned him over the two legs. Like, absolutely bullied him. It was kind of disgraceful on Giroud's end, because this is kind of where it's going to stop now, because there's a handful of matches left in the league and really nothing to play for. So to just have all of that and to have nothing to show for it, on top of the star players really not doing much, Pulisic, Leao, they were disappointing. Ismail Benacer, Matt, I love Benacer, but this current version of him should not be playing and starting in a high intense European match where he has to cover so much ground, because there is a lot of ground to cover when you have this sort of formation by Milan. And this is when even the red card happened. They're up a man for this entire time. I tweeted it out. I was like, it's not going to make
It
a
doesn't look
difference.
any different.
We've seen them struggle in the past couple of matches when they were up a man, right? Against
Yeah.
Slavia Prague. They were not doing that great. Roma, who were doing fantastic, and their entire game plan, and especially up 2-0, were going to sit back and defend and hit them on the counter. You talk about El Shaarawy. There was one instance when Spinazzola has a shot that was saved as well. One of the better chances until Milan finally got a goal. And again, Matt, why do we have to sit here and worry about this team having a stinker when it's the only thing they're playing for? That's a reflection of everybody. I know first thing you think of and you blame is the manager, and I agree with that. But my God, why do some of these players need the motivation for that? Why aren't they the ones dying on the pitch? It's like, quote unquote, the expression goes, right? To get every 50-50 ball possible. They weren't doing that. It was lifeless. And the one thing that you should expect from a team, and we say this all the time, is to have the effort at least. And you didn't even see that. And that's disgraceful. And not only Stefano Pioli is going to lose a job. There's some players now that I'm not so sure they're going to be here next year or even have a starting spot, because whatever that was is not acceptable for what the standard of AC Milan should be.
There shouldn't be any. The motivation should be the fact that you're playing for one of the most historic clubs in world football history. There's no motivation that you shouldn't be. Well, they weren't motivated.
Yeah.
You put on that shirt and you have a responsibility.
Yeah.
You could even say to any sort of club that playing professionally, you're getting paid to
Of
play.
course, yeah.
This is your job.
Roma fans.
Motivation should be to go out there and perform, especially if you're playing for AC Milan, and especially if you're playing in a European competition with high stakes, with a lot on the line.
Only thing to play for.
The only thing to play for the rest of the season. Mind you, also, you have a huge game against your rival that you want to at least show up and show some pride in, so you don't get battered for the umpteenth time in a row.
Six.
I don't like that part of it. And I think that once you started to see, that drop off in performance, I think it's pretty clear that maybe, yes, Pioli hasn't, quote unquote, lost the changing room. He hasn't lost the group. But I think it's pretty obvious that there is that feeling, there is that vibe around this club where the performances are so sporadic and Jekyll and Hyde these days that you almost feel as if though there's a feeling where, we'll get up for this game.
Yeah.
This is an important game.
Switch. Yeah.
Right. It's almost as if it's just like they kind of be like they're like selectively motivated for games. And that is the difference between a good coach and a great coach. A great coach, who, in my view, is like Antonio Conte, at least from a motivation side, people
Right.
can
Yeah.
say what
Yeah.
they
Of
want
course.
about his tactical setup and his
Sure.
3-5-2. But the fact of the matter is we saw what he did in his previous jobs. We saw what he did at Chelsea. We saw what he did with that Italy team at the Euro. I mean, there's so much experience there, and there's
Overachieving.
so much of a sample size to say that when you have a master motivator, someone who can get his guys to play to their best ability and highest potential, that says a lot. And I think I'm really seeing that in stark contrast with Daniele De Rossi. And I don't know if that's strictly down to, hey, you fire a coach and then you get a reaction from a new coach
Sure.
with new ideas. It's possible. But I think it's pretty obvious that if you're still in the camp and you're still on the side of Pioli is staying, I throw the question back over to you and I say, all right, what with Pioli do you love? What are his redeeming qualities right now that you think that you can hang your hat on and you can believe in going forward? Because to me, people always try to say, yeah, but he doesn't have this player. Yeah, but he doesn't have this quality of player. So you got a much vast midfield, right? This year, you got an expanded midfield. You could have what your say on who's a needle mover, who's a
Right.
great player, who's not a great
Right.
player. The fact of the matter is you have more depth in the midfield than at any point in his tenure. Then you have more
More
depth in the
depth in
attack
general.
at any point in his tenure. So what is it? I understand the injuries in defense, but at some point, when does it fall on him and his preparation and his
They've
guys'
all been
preparation?
back. They've all been back for a while
They've all
now.
been
He's
back.
had plenty of
Where
defenders.
where is where is the tightness and the cohesion in defense that we saw down the stretch of the Scudetto winning season? We have largely the same group in defense, right? The Gabbias, the Tamoris, the Kalulus. I know he's injured. Calabria, Teo. Like most of that team is, at least defensively, is still there.
Yeah.
We are a shell of our former self defensively. And I've said this many times
Not
throughout
even
the
a
year,
good
Martino, and
team.
this is kind of my final point on this game specifically, is when we commit errors defensively, they're not just oh wow, like just a slight issue. They're like crucial and they're fatal. Like it's almost like they almost always result in a goal, and the goal has so much weight to it.
Gabbia getting pushed off by Lukaku
You're trying
being
to
one of
bully
them.
Lukaku. He loves that. He'll bounce right off you, and
Yeah.
sure enough, there's a goal, and that sets the tone. They love that. That little cluster of a time in the game where Lukaku's holding it up creates that goal, and now all of a sudden they're on the front foot. They're the one dictating that game. As soon as the other goal went in from Dybala, great finish by him.
It
I
was
was like,
over.
"Oh, this game is curtains." Like, even when they had a lifeline with Chelik getting out
I
of the
didn't
red
even
card, I was
I
like, "They're
didn't
not
even
doing it."
flinch. I didn't even flinch. I didn't even flinch when Chelik got the red. Like it was just like, what does it matter? You're down 3-0. So now you need 3 goals. Roma at home feeling confident and with 10 men, like I don't know what people were expecting. Pioli got everything that he wanted over the summer. His failure to develop and adapt certain players into the system, the failure to even succeed in all these competitions, which is what I wanted to pull up here. We have Coppa Italia round of 16, pathetic showing in that one against Atalanta, right? UCL third place in the group. That was a fail. Don't forget, this is why Milan were in Europa League, because they failed miserably in the Champions League. Okay, quarterfinals, lose to a team that you haven't lost to in 9 tries within Serie A, and then again, you're likely second place, and that's 10 points behind your league leaders, Inter, who are on their way to their second star, and potentially clinching it over Milan this weekend, which we'll still get to. Pioli's time is done with Milan. There is no coming back from this. There is nothing to redeem him, right? Like I think he certainly had a case if they were to win Europa League, beating a
Yeah,
Roma on your way to knocking out Leverkusen, who have still yet to lose a game this year. That would have been fairly impressive. And then whoever you face in the
yeah,
final, it's a trophy and it's a respectable trophy at this point, right? People value it over a cup, a domestic cup trophy, right? Over Coppa Italia easily. So the fact that you still weren't able to go as far as you could have in that competition, it's basically everywhere. And I don't really care how good Inter is. If they were even at least like playing decent against Inter, maybe you could say like, oh yeah, like maybe there's something to build off of. You have to pick up your points against the Lecces of the world and stuff like
Right.
that. Not only are they not picking up those points and getting exposed defensively, which he had never have fixed the entire season, they are destroying them. They're embarrassing them. I mentioned in a tweet yesterday, they're former rivals Inter. This is not a rivalry anymore. You don't lose to a team 5 straight times, show no fight, show no. I don't know, like there was only one close tie within the last 5, right? Where Inter win 1-0 last spring, where Pioli completely goes into a defensive formation. He refuses to start Rafael Leao in that one, the infamous 1-0 derby loss. There is a failure to adapt from the manager for so many reasons. There's been examples of players, Yassine Adli being one in mind, where if you don't have his trust, he can't put you in a game. He can't let you adapt. Like, there's no risks being taken, right? Like Pioli, we understand you want the 4-2-3-1, you want your 4-3-3. Why isn't Chukwueze and Pulisic in there? I think if Milan were to have lost yesterday 2-1 with that formation from the very beginning, at least he's trying that. Then it's on the
Right.
players at that point.
Exactly.
The moves made yesterday are indefensible of him. And they looked, listen, still pathetic in the second half, but at least they look better. That's the damning part, because it was proven to be true that if you simply went with these other players, the tie is completely different. And I know if Giroud finishes a chance in the first, like Roma were still better over 180 minutes.
Yeah.
There's so many things. There's so many things that point back to the manager in this, that where Jerry Cardinal is getting on podcasts and saying these things like, I love to win. I love being under George Steinbrenner. And I made the
Show us.
point yesterday, and I knew you understood the reference. George would have sacked and fired Stefano Pioli so quick it would have made your head spin. He would have been gone last year. You finish 5th and you only get in the Champions League because of Juve. He would have been gone. That was the worst title defense. If it wasn't for Napoli this year, you're gone. You're done. It's not even a question of it. He was given some leeway, which isn't the worst thing in the world, because I like that kind of point of view. Or like, hey, let's not be so quick to rush. But when you sack Paolo Maldini, when you get rid of Ricky Masada, when you sell Sandro Tonali, who, by the way, regardless of betting, would not have shown up flat for that game yesterday. I think that would have been the one guy that you say, yeah, he wouldn't have done that. That kind of stuff comes to the front now,
I also
right?
think
Like, this
too,
is what we said over the summer. You have to win something. They failed miserably in everything, and that should get a sacking.
I also think too, look, I mean, if our colors weren't red and black, if we didn't have the Milan badge and everything that it represents on the shirt, and we were, no disrespect, we were Atalanta, who have no issue consistently staying with Gasparini, whether they finish 4th, 5th, 3rd, 7th, 8th, because it's apples to oranges. They don't have the history that we have. The ambitions are not there. They don't have the clout on the market to spend and to do the certain things that maybe Milan have done in the past and potentially going forward to do. And the weight that we have in the sport, this isn't a slight on them, but you're AC Milan. Look at any other big club with a big pedigree across Europe, and they're not accepting this. They're not accepting this.
Oh no!
If you're Manchester United, for all the misery and woes that they're going through, they have every right to demand more. They're Manchester United. Same thing with Liverpool. Same thing with several other clubs across Europe. Why can't we have that feeling towards Milan where everyone's like, yeah, but like he got us into the Champions League? To me, we've waited years. We've waited years. I'm done being hey, we're just happy to be there. We're just happy to have a seat at the table and to get bounced and to maybe make the round of 16. I want to win trophies, Martino. I don't know what you want. I don't know what the fans want. I want to see this club win trophies again. To not even have a real chance to win the Copa, to not even make a deep run. If you get to the final and you lose to Inter, bet. No problem. I can tolerate that in a tight match. Or you lose to a Juventus, or you lose to a Napoli. And it's like, you know what? We gave it a real go. We made a deep run in these competitions. We were right there. To fizzle out in the Coppa Italia, to come away empty-handed in the Europa League and the Champions League, and in the league to fall short yet again to your closest rival, it's disappointing. And at this point, it's been 4+ years. At some point, when does the coach be held accountable? When do you say, you know what, Pioli, you've done a great job with us, but our ambitions and our vision to get to the next level and to get back to previous heights, we don't think you're the guy to do that for us. Thank you. Have a great day. That's
And it's
okay. Not
yeah.
everyone's going to stay employed for 15, 20 years. This isn't a Carlo Ancelotti coach. This isn't a Sacchi. This isn't that type of
He
coach.
stayed less. He wasn't
He
even
stayed
here as
less.
long.
And this is the
And the
life
funny
cycle of
thing
a
is,
coach in this modern era, Martino.
how did this era
How many
kick
more
off?
years?
How did this era kick off? You sacked a manager not even 12 games into his tenure.
Yeah.
Because the standard wasn't there.
Yeah.
People forget how awful they were. Some people forget, right? I mean, obviously, everyone who was there remembers those first 12 games or so, or whatever,
The
with
selections
Gianpaolo
too.
were
He wasn't starting any of the new signings. And we're
exactly.
healthy.
Oh, and any parallels currently? Digress there. But listen, this is someone who, and we should say, because we don't want to keep all negative with him, this was someone who did ultimately turn around Milan,
Yeah,
and
of
win
course.
them a Scudetto. And this, just for me, this is just to talk about his legacy at this point. Stefano Pioli's legacy with Milan is something that will be remembered fondly in the future. Not right now because of how badly things have been, but the reality was this: he took a team that wasn't competing whatsoever for top 4 spots, got them back into the Champions League, and there were a lot of people who had a hand in it, but he was clearly the best manager since Allegri was sacked. And to kind of galvanize the group and pull off an upset in a Scudetto that they weren't supposed to win,
Yeah.
and to have them prepared for that. A Champions League semifinal was very respectable. I hated the way we went out, but you can't. It's hard to hate on that. But everything outside of that wasn't really up to standards. And the fact is, Pioli won a Scudetto with Milan, and there's a hell of a lot of other clubs out there that would love to take just a league title as their worst possible
It's
thing, right?
okay.
So it was a success as a tenure, but it just
Right.
ran its course for too long, and now the club has to get this right.
Right.
So your
And
kind of thoughts on his end here?
yeah, I think that you can, again, there could be two feelings of here with Pioli. You can be thankful, appreciative, the Scudetto, some of the great memories with the, Pioli's on fire. Like there's so many memories that we can, give him credit for and to be happy about and happy that they happened. But there also can be that feeling where you say, look, like it's just not working out. Like this is the nature of the sport. When you're coaching AC Milan, these are the expectations. You want the pressures of coaching at a top club. You want to be in these major competitions. With that becomes expectations that are high. If you can't meet that standard, then it's okay to move on. I think that you don't have to be so far to the Pioli inside and so far to the Pioli outside. You can maybe in the middle where you can appreciate the guy and have respect for what he did for this club. The return to the Champions League, coming in with zero expectations, Martino. In the dirt, no expectations. Before he even signed Pioli Out, people were bombarding the admin on Twitter. He had no expectation to do anything. We get to the Champions League. We go on some really great runs deep in the season. We win a Scudetto and beating out our rival for the first time in how many years? You can still appreciate that and you can still savor that and love that. And in the years to come, it'll take time to digest that. But I think ultimately, I feel fine with my feelings towards Pioli and his tenure. But it's time. It's time. It's the proper end of the cycle, and you move forward with somebody else, regardless of what happens with that next coach.
I will
Because there's going to
say,
be people who say, you should have kept Pioli. You should have done this. You should have done that. It's time. I know people are going to look and say he finished second. And there was a couple tweets going out. People are saying, yeah, but he did this, he did that. But look at the negatives. Have we gotten up for a derby? Have we competed with Inter? Like, can we be honest with ourselves and
it's been
say,
2
Milan
seasons.
have
It's been 2
competed
seasons.
with Inter? They haven't.
2 seasons.
They
They had
haven't.
a chance to win a trophy, the Super Cup. They got eviscerated in it.
Right.
Uncompetitive in the Champions League semifinal against Inter.
Of course.
5-1. 5-1 is one of the more embarrassing derby defeat. Like it's just not close. If Jerry says he wants to raise the standard, let's see it.
And Martino, last thing. You had Jerry, you had Furlani, you had everybody come in last year, and we thought we were going to see sweeping wholesale changes, right? Maldini was let go. Mazzara left with him. Pioli kept his job for another year. It was another year. It's like, hey, Pioli's under contract. He gave us a title. We'll give you another year. Can you not say that this was his final year to say, Pioli, like, we're going to give you one more year. We gave you a market where he spent a
It was
good
pretty
amount of money.
obvious, yeah.
Like, he didn't deliver. It's okay. Move on. Get a new coach. You have bear in mind too, Martino, you're not going to have these guys, your top players, in this prime of their career on these wages for very long. So when that starts to dry up and you got players who have a little bit of the rumblings, Teo's not happy, they're not winning, he's 26, 27, he wants to leave, he wants a new contract. Those things happen. You have to seize the moment. And Paolo Maldini was right in his defense. You have players that are ready to go and ready to win something that you can build around, that actually have a tangible thing to put the success towards in the Scudetto. Move forward with those guys, you get the right coach in, and you keep it pushing. Period.
It's not all is lost. Not all is
No,
lost.
of course
But
not.
this season is. See, because when you put yourself in a position where you're no longer competing for anything but pride at this point, this one is all about pride. This has nothing to do with result, in my opinion. I mean, a loss, you can't have a loss.
Yeah.
I think regardless of what's going to happen here, is that Milan need to show that they have some balls, that they need to show almost immediately that they're in this to at least grab a point from Inter, to not have them celebrate a Scudetto, because then it just gets even worse. Honestly, I think the optics of everything, and then they're not going to spiral out of control. There's a positive that there's 5 Champions League spots. They're well above where Roma is with just a handful of matches to play, and I think these guys are going to produce. My thing is, I'm not optimistic about this one. I don't think Milan will win it. I'm not fully convinced Inter will win it. I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever. I do, however, see this one hopefully being more cagey of an affair. And if it's not, then I think actually Pioli will get sacked immediately. And then on top of it, like, I'm talking like if Milan lose by like 2+ goals, Pioli's gone immediately. I think that's done.
Talking Pioli stacked caretaker comes in for 5 games.
Yeah, I think like Bonera comes in for like a few weeks or a few matches, says we play this way, be very pragmatic about it, pick up these points, we're done, we're moving on to next season.
Yeah.
Because that's just, there's a lot of stink there. Something has to change immediately, because if you kind of let that stink settle in, I think it brings more negatives than positives. And it just, you kind of know heading into the summer, everything's going to be a fresh start. Rip off this Band-Aid. I think that's what would happen if Milan lose by 2+ goals. If not, a draw would be whatever. Gets them closer to occupying that spot in the Champions League next year. And I'm not sure how many more points Milan will need to do that, because it's less points now.
Mm.
So only positives you could try and take away, maybe a decent performance, just get closer to the Champions League and turn the page on this season, because that's really all you have to do at this point. Your kind of thoughts heading in while we just have a couple more minutes here. Just don't embarrass us, right, boys?
It's it's difficult because I think, you look forward to derbies, right? You're getting up for a crucial match like this, and you hope at this point of the season Milan was still in competition for that Scudetto, right? Imagine the stakes there. Imagine if Milan were 4 or 5, even 6 points off Inter right now heading into this match. You know how crucial it would be? I mean, it's a sold out game, right? So we all kind of knew that was going to happen. But can we not lay a stinker? Can we not lay a dud? Can we have some pride? Can we show the fans that, like, despite us not getting the title this year, we're not going to just give it over to Inter that easily? Can we do that? Can we compete over 90 minutes? Can Pioli not get completely outclassed by Simone Inzaghi? Can our guys step up and galvanize something towards the back end of the season? If you can give me, this is not going to change my Pioli stance, but if you can give me a valiant effort and a tight draw, we compete against Inter, we say, you know what, we're not giving this over to you, we're not going to be the ones that you win the Scudetto over, then I can stomach that. It doesn't have to be a win, but damn, you have to have some pride. You can't get absolutely battered by your rivals again. You have to show something.
Yeah, you have to sack him
You have
immediately.
You have to show something in this game. You have to. There's if we lose and we lose 3-1, he's got to go. He's got to go right now at that moment.
Yeah.
He's got to go.
Yeah.
It's
And I think
period.
they would put Bonetta in his place for those
Period.
remaining games. I really
He's
think
got
they
to
would.
go.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I got a WhatsApp message from Uncle Sharma in the middle of this, so I would have said all I read was, "You know why I'm messaging you," so
Of
that
course,
probably
he
means
wants.
to
Yeah.
come on the Sharma channel. So look out for that. Look out for Kush's content. Coast to Coast, Old Hard Rossonero, Serie A Sit Down, the Calcio guys, Kicks and Picks podcast with Nick Diani and company. Wayne's channel, Wayne in Rome yesterday. I shared it for everybody. Can't really think of anyone else. Obviously, Milan Weekly Podcast, that YouTube channel has everything there. And then Sempre Milan Pod. And then Gino and Max for their podcast. Good guys. We'll see if we can get them on in the coming weeks. Schedules are hectic. We greatly appreciate everybody's support as usual. Again, That Milan Podcast on Twitter at That Milan Pod. Again, Apple, Spotify, other platforms to listen to us on top of here. Any other final notes, Matthew, before we go?
Finish the season strong, guys. Give the fans something to be proud of the rest of the season. I know second place on paper, it doesn't look that bad. Inter, to their defense, have had a great year. They basically are outperforming what Napoli did last year, I think, based on points so far. So you have to give them the credit.
I think it's a weaker league this year.
But we could have done more to be in a position where this derby actually meant something in the standings. And we didn't do it. No. But with 90 minutes against our rivals, show up. Give the fans who are going to pack the San Siro. And this is a home game for Milan. This is a home game. Show the fans, give the fans something to cheer about and to be happy about. Pioli's potentially last derby. Pioli, we need something from you in this game. At some point, you can't keep taking right hooks and just laying down. You have to get up and you have to counter. You have to do something. You have to respond. You have to. Will we get it? Who knows? We'll see what the projected lineups look like. Of course, it's a Monday game, so I don't know what post-match is going to look like. Nothing for me. I know you said you're working. So
I'm working. I can't even,
So
I was initially off, but I have to work. So
yeah.
Either way, again, we appreciate the support.
Thank you, guys.
So yeah, other than that, we'll see you guys next time and hopefully more positive news. Take care.